It's turning into one of the biggest stories of the year, but we still can't get the Aurora police chief to talk about it, unless it's a Friday night. Two women have filed a class action lawsuit against Frontier over sexual assault allegations on flights from DIA, and there's a reason it's a class action lawsuit. And new year, new laws. In less than a week, Coloradans will have a list of new rules to follow. Can you name even one of them?
It's a holiday for us, but it is a celebration.
Plus, the holidays are far from over. Some have just begun. Snowball's got a better chance in a hot place than I do of getting an interview with Aurora Police Chief Nick Metz. That's what the department told me today when I asked for an interview with Chief Metz and Deputy Chief Paul O'Keefe. O'Keefe was supposed to take over as interim police chief next week when Metz retires, but on Christmas Eve at 8:32 p.m., you know, the time you release news you absolutely want no one to find out about, we found out from Aurora Police that O'Keefe won't be interim police chief and is now retiring in a few months. It's the latest in a string of late-night, nothing-to-see-here news updates from Aurora Police. Friday, September 27th, 9:17 p.m. The Aurora Police Facebook page posts a message from Chief Nick Metz announcing his retirement at the end of the year. Friday, November 22nd, 7 p.m. An Aurora Police news conference announcing no officers would face criminal charges in the death of Elijah McClain. Body camera footage was also released that Friday night showing some of the incident where McClain struggled with police, then went into cardiac arrest after rescue workers gave him medication to calm down. McClain was taken off life support 1 week later. Although in this situation, Metz addressed doing this so late on a Friday night.
I told my staff that it didn't matter what day this letter came out, that we were going to be doing this press conference as quickly as possible, even if it was late on a Friday night, a Saturday or Sunday, because I didn't want to hold this declination letter for several days and create concern in the community that I was holding on to information intentionally.
Friday, December 13th, 10:24 p.m. Metz sends an email to staff about inaccurate media spin of the Nate Meyer case. He's the officer who in March was found drunk and passed out in his running vehicle on Mississippi Avenue by Buckley Air Force Base. We didn't find out about this until last month, and then we discovered it was not treated like a DUI case, despite 3 officers, including Deputy Chief Paul O'Keefe, smelling alcohol. O'Keefe wrote in his report that it appeared more medical in nature. In that Friday night email, Metz also told officers to own their blank. And now Christmas Eve, 8:32 p.m., Deputy Chief Paul O'Keefe's letter to Aurora's Deputy City Manager asking to remove his name from consideration as the interim chief of police, a job O'Keefe was to take over in 1 week. Oh, and the letter also revealed he's now retiring at the end of March. O'Keefe also wrote, "It is my intention that by removing myself from this interim position, that the men and women of the Aurora Police Department will ultimately be able to move beyond the negative depiction currently being broadcast." Back to my Snowball's chance and you-know-what. I asked to schedule an interview with both Metz and O'Keefe. Besides the Snowball, I was told Chief Metz and Deputy Chief O'Keefe will not be giving a comment beyond the letter Deputy Chief O'Keefe gave. Aurora Police Chief Nick Metz and Deputy Police Chief Paul O'Keefe have a standing invitation to sit down in this studio or have us come to wherever is convenient for them to address the inaccurate media spin and the negative depiction. And perhaps why Aurora city leaders are now scrambling to find a police chief to take over until they can find a police chief to take over. Denver-based Frontier Airlines faces a class action lawsuit. 2 women claim they were sexually assaulted by passengers on 2 separate flights from DIA last year. We were curious why it's a class action lawsuit when it only involves 2 people.
In an individual lawsuit, the only thing you can get is money. In a class action, you can get money damages, but you also can get an entire company institution to change, to implement best practices, to put into place these policies and procedures. And that's one of the most powerful pieces about bringing this as a class case.
Both women say they reported the assaults to flight attendants who did not alert anyone else on the plane or law enforcement. They also claim they didn't get help switching seats. A Frontier spokesperson told us they cannot comment on the lawsuit at this time, but then in very PR speak let us know the safety of our passengers and crew members is our #1 priority. When we ring in the new year, we also write in new laws. There are 9 laws that take effect with the new year. A 10th is the red flag law, which really was written into the law books back on April 12th, but it can't be used for the first time until January 1st. That's the deadline lawmakers gave the courts for coming up with the actual petition and policies for how to handle extreme risk protection orders. The state's red flag law allows a family member, someone in the household, or law enforcement to petition the court to take the guns away from someone deemed an extreme risk. Law enforcement also have a January 1st deadline to adopt policies and procedures for how to enforce the court rulings. More than half of Colorado's counties have declared themselves Second Amendment sanctuary counties, meaning law enforcement in those counties may not enforce the red flag law. There are 9 lesser-known bills that take effect on Wednesday. One of them, the result of a 9 Wants to Know investigation on that surprise feeling some of you get when you open a medical bill.
Some people were getting liens put on their houses.
On June 27th, the governor signed into law a bill that takes effect next week. It will prevent hospitals from sending you a surprise medical bill in the mail. These are patients who went to an in-network provider but received unexpected out-of-network medical bills. Another law makes it easier for a transgendered person to get a new birth certificate. No more will they have to go get a court order to do so. It was named Jude's Law after a 12-year-old in Colorado who's testified on this issue since the age of 9. And bed bugs. Gross. A new law requires a landlord to inspect a bedbug complaint within 4 days. However, if that tenant gets in the way of allowing the inspection and treatment of bedbugs, they could become liable for the cost of the treatments. Why do I have to mention bedbugs? There's a law that's been on the books for ages, and we got a reminder of that thanks to this sign. This sign at the University Hills Walgreens at Colorado and Yale has so many problems. But it reminds customers that you can't buy alcohol on Christmas Day due to state law. Due to state law. Do you catch that? We won't even mention the weird bullet point format. Selling alcohol on Christmas is part of Colorado's remaining blue laws. Even when lawmakers changed it so you could buy booze on Sundays and then changed it so you could buy it at grocery stores, they never crossed out the part of the law that still bans the sale on Christmas. Speaking of Christmas, December 25th, it's kind of long gone, but tonight is the first night of Kwanzaa. The celebration of African American history and culture kicked things off in Denver today at the Blair Caldwell African American Research Library.
Kwanzaa is a celebration specifically for African Americans so that we could have some pride in our culture. We are celebrating with African dance, African drum. We gotta pass these stories down. It's so important. It's the seed that dwindles and it blossoms and it grows. This celebration, it has 7 principles. Umoja, which is unity. Kujichagulia, which is self-defining. You determine who you are. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. Ujamaa, cooperative economics. Your problem is my problem. Not you or I, but we. Ashe, ashe, ashe. We have Nia, which means purpose. Kuumba is creativity, to create something in the world, make the world a better place than it was yesterday. Imani is faith. It's celebrated 7 days a week. We light a candle each morning or evening to represent the principle. The Unity Cup means that we all share. We all share. And we pay libation to our ancestors. Ashe. For it were not for them, we would not be here. Lift somebody, carry somebody with you. We gotta be better than we are. We gotta be better because I want my children and the children of the world to be strong. I want them to have all the virtues in the world that's gonna keep them uplifted, living their best life.
That's photojournalist Mike Grady giving us that. Another celebration with plenty more singing and dancing is about to get underway at the Cleo Parker Robinson Dance Theater in Denver. It'll go on for a few hours, so it's not too late to head over and check it out. Although if you're watching us at 9:30, I'm sorry, maybe it's still going on? They're real and they're unspectacular. Lots of massive and dirty snow mounds are left over from snow I can't remember when, so how long can we expect them to stick around? We look at the science behind it. Plus, there's a reason all of our state's sports teams don't have Colorado in their name. That's what we found out thanks to one curious viewer.
It's
Red Wings! Yeah, I better not finish that. You may not recognize him by face, but you'll recognize the sound he creates. A look back at one of our favorite characters of 2019. A trace of snow. What is that? It's snow that doesn't stick when it lands. The Denver metro area has had a trace of snow in December. Well, you wouldn't necessarily know that by the piles of snow still sticking around, like what I'm calling Mount Mound in the Cherry Creek Shopping Center East parking lot. It's so tall, it almost looks like someone planted a flag at the summit. Well, today, Sasha sent us this photo of her mountain of mound in Loveland off Highway 34 near the outlet shops. She says that's from 2 weeks ago. So how long will it take to melt these spectacularly unspectacular piles? Well, our Corey Reppenhagen looked at that in early November.
A 50-degree day like today in full sun can melt more than 4 inches off those nasty mounds. Even more when surrounded by dark blacktop parking lots.
Is it fair that we're calling it nasty? I want to see the mound you plan to conquer this weekend. Send me a picture or video next at 9news.com or hashtag HeyNext.
Those mounds are only going to get larger as we head toward the weekend with another storm system on the way. Right now it's sitting in parts of California, on the move into Colorado overnight tonight. It'll be with us Friday and Saturday before finally pushing out, but it'll bring us a healthy amount of snow, especially up in the mountains and also across the eastern plains. Tonight mostly cloudy and dry. We fall to about 22 here in Denver, 20s along the plains, teens way up high with single digits up in the mountains. Futurecast showing snowfall overnight beginning in the San Juans. This is around 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, possibly a little bit of freezing rain, maybe even some ice across the eastern side of the state. As temperatures cool off on the northeastern plains, we'll be talking about snow tomorrow afternoon, but this is what I'm talking about in Lamar and Springfield. Could be a bit icy. By dinner time tomorrow, a few flurries coming our way here in Denver. We'll get a brief break, and then really the heaviest batch of snow that the city is anticipating will arrive early Saturday morning and then stick with us through the early afternoon. Plenty of advisories out there, watches, warnings. Right now it looks like about 3 to 7 for the Palmer Divide, 4 to 8 for the north and east, and then big time totals going across the San Juans. As far as the metro area goes, about 2 to 5 here in Denver. Again, the model's kind of all over the place as this storm system is just pushing onshore in California. So stay tuned as we are changing those numbers as the storm gets closer to Colorado. Tomorrow, cold day, mostly cloudy in the upper 30s. We are going to be looking at a chilly, windy weekend with the snow, and then we should climb with a bit of sunshine by the time we're ringing in the new year.
Tonight's next question comes from a viewer named John. He's curious about how Colorado's sports teams choose their names. Specifically, why is it the Denver Nuggets and Denver Broncos versus the Colorado Avalanche and Colorado Rockies? Puzzling question. John, the Rockies and Avalanche tell us the name Colorado was picked to make fans all over the state feel included. They thought the name had a more regional appeal. So does that mean the Broncos and Nuggets are dissing Aurora, Arvada, and Alamosa? No, the Broncos told us they chose Denver because at the time, no AFL teams use state names, only cities. And as far as the Nuggets, the team couldn't tell us an exact reason Denver was chosen, but they were first known as the Denver Rockets in the ABA in 1967, and Denver stuck while the Rock name became Nugs. What other questions do you want the next team to look into, even if it doesn't deal with a team on the court or field or floor? Email us at next@9news.com, get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext, and send me pictures of those mountain mounds. Tomorrow when the Avs take the ice, you'll hear it. It's not a hockey game without it. We're talking about the sound of the organ. Earlier this year, our Steve Steger met the man behind the keys. It's one of our favorite stories of 2019 that we'd like to share with you again because bum, 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 bum. Red Wings.
This is my gypsy jazz group called Deja Swing.
Every musician is trying to find that one great gig.
What do we do? Dances, and we play nursing homes and weddings.
Mark Castellano had to adapt a bit for some of his gigs. These photos show you just how much he's changed to fit the part. From suave acoustic guitar player maybe metal, reggae, fusion, not sure. This lifelong musician keeps himself busy.
Playing in a melodrama in Silver Plume, doing the Deja Swing gigs, the Avalanche, or in the playoffs.
One of those things is not like the other. Mark had to turn himself into a hockey fan for his latest gig.
And I was like, oh, that's cool, they have an organist? And I'm like, I wonder how someone gets that job.
A few months later, that job was posted online, and Mark applied on a long shot, figuring he'd never get it.
They were like, okay, play something. So I played Charge for the first time in the stadium, and the second I did it, I turned to the person who was auditioning me, and I was like, this is the coolest thing. I think I can die now. And they were like, you're hired.
His official title?
How's that?
In-game organist. Though that could be a bit misleading.
I guess keyboard player, I tickle the keys.
By now you've figured out there's no organ.
Organist.
But don't you go thinking Mark isn't the hardest working organist in professional sports.
Gotta lug that keyboard.
He lugs it.
Ready to rock and roll?
In and out of 41 home games a year.
Okay, let the music begin.
And more on playoff years like this.
Come on. Thank you. It's annoying. I hate moving it.
But once that lugging is over, Mark has a bit of freedom to fire up the crowd.
Every time we score on the Red Wings, you play Red Wings Suck. It's bump 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 ba da bump 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 ba da dun 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 dun, and the whole crowd screams Red Wings Sucks.
Just not too much freedom.
There's certain things that are frowned upon, like playing Three Blind Mice, like for the refs. That would surely get me fired. Oh!
And he gets to enjoy his new favorite sport.
It's awesome. Like, there's so much energy.
From one of the best seats in the house.
I like where I am. I can see the crowd.
He certainly had to adapt, but now this musician seems to have found that one big gig.
Some people came up and they were like, we see what you do every night and we really appreciate it.
At Pepsi Center, for Next, I'm Steve Stager.
And next time you're at the game, go say hi to him. Christmas may be in the rear view, but your holiday fails are still center stage. That and some feedback next. This Christmas season, we've seen recipes and families get-togethers go awry, but what about the decor? That brings us to our favorite holiday segment. It's the thought that counts.
What's wrong with it?
Shut up, ain't nothing wrong with that reindeer.
Dad, there's something wrong with this reindeer.
Santa looks great. Our viewer Sydney in Berthoud thinks Rudolph, though, looks a little off. She says her dad was in charge of putting up Christmas decorations, including this Lego set of a Santa and a reindeer. Maybe we should leave the Legos to the professionals, which are the kids. Some feedback tonight from Tina Proctor. Real news on December 26th. Thanks. Tina, if you're amazed by that, join us tomorrow on December 27th. There'll be more real news. And December 28th, December 29th, December 30th, December 31st. I'll keep going. See you next time.